Chris Griffin, good to have you back.
It's great to be here, dude.
Back on home soil, mate. Back in Oz.
Dude, I was looking at our first pod we did together
Hmm.
and it was like one camera and I like looked all funny and I had this really croaky voice and it's cool to see how far we both come. You're married and it's great.
Yeah, life moves, doesn't it? It's been I think it's been nearly 2 years.
Over 2 years. It's been, actually, no. Yes, September 23, I believe it was. So over 2 years now.
Mate, a lot has happened in your life since. Kind of just alluded to that fact, right? Like life moves quick. I feel like especially in this decade of life, which is mid-20s to mid-30s, I feel like so much is happening. We're evolving. People come into our life. Those people then again evolve and change our life. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, or part of the experience that is life. I think we've got to tackle the elephant in the room. A big moment for you before you planned to leave for the US was what became, I guess, a big saga on social media and culturally. You had a guest on the podcast. I'm not sure who your guest was, but it led you down the path of conversation on relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know what I'm talking about. A clip that went really viral online in which it split opinions. There were polarizing views on this clip. A clip where essentially the essence of it is, you said, I don't want my partner working unless she wants to work. If you feel the need to go and work and make money, and then you want to come home and complain about your day when you don't need to make money because we're sorted, when we've got 4 hours together in each other's company in the afternoon, and I ask you how your day was today, I want your eyes to light up with excitement. It's the calm, the harmony, the peace, the love that a man who's busy chasing his dream needs when he wants to wind down. I don't think a girl needs to go through challenge, pain and hardship to be an amazing girl. I think she can fill her day with passion-filled things and still be amazing. It splits opinions. Now, I think potentially an uncomfortable conversation here. I agree with elements of your take, but I disagree with others. Talk to me though in hindsight, looking back at that. It's been 7 months. Do you still feel the same way?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I truly do. And it's crazy how much an opinion and a desire for someone can make people so mad. Like, we're all allowed to have our own wants and desires. I don't think there's any malicious intent in the message. Saying, and the intention behind the message is I want to work my ass off to give my partner the freedom of choice to make her decisions based on desire and want, not survival and need. That's all it is. If she wants to work, great, go do it. If she wants to make millions, great, go do it. If she wants to plait Barbie dolls all day, go do it. I don't really care what it is, but I want her eyes to light up with excitement. Why? Why would you do something that you don't want to do day in, day out for the sake of doing it? People go to work to make money. Now it's a bonus and you've cracked some sort of code if you're passionate about the work that you're doing and it makes money. Great. So if the primary reason of going to work is making money, but we're married in a partnership where collectively we don't need you to make that money at that job, if you're not passionate about it, why are you doing it? What, so you want to do it because you feel like you need to survive? I think that there's a lack of trust there. There's a partnership here in place. So for me, I think it's a pretty fair want to be able to give her the freedom of choice, just to make her decisions on passion and desire, not survival and need. There's so many pillars of that we can unpack, and I'm keen to hear which ones didn't sit right with you. But it's so interesting, and you know, resurfacing this over the last, I haven't really like dove deep on this, but the things that people got offended on a lot of the time weren't actually the things that I said. It was what other people perceived I said. Then they projected that perception online, and then someone got offended on that. They were getting offended by their own words. And yes, I still stay true to what I believe in, and I believe it. And it's not about being stubborn and going, no, like I'm not going to listen to, and being closed-minded. I'm not going to listen to what you say. I onboarded everything, all of the good, all of the bad, and I just onboarded it and went, okay, does this serve me? Does this not? If it serves me, onboard it, taken. If it doesn't, I'm going to disregard it. I'm not going to onboard something that I don't like the sound of. Don't like that idea in any way, shape, or form in any area of my life. I would never do that. And then the final pillar on all of this is, if you were to be someone that spoke your mind, it got backlash, and you still remained to bow down, bend over, and say sorry for something that you believe in, you've got no soul. You're ridiculous. Like, if you don't stand for something, then you stand for nothing. And a big part of all of this was that I doubled down. And I said, no, I believe in what I said, and I'm not going to change and mold into you just to please someone that I respectfully don't even care about. And so, yes, I still remain true to what I said.
It's interesting. So I think it's noble to, and I think that both men and women, I think that one thing that confuses me about this argument about masculinity, femininity, that seems to be a pretty prominent conversation in culture today, is I think that we're trying too hard to focus on what masculinity or femininity is supposed to be. And I think that it's just very natural that when you love and care for somebody, you want to do anything in your power to support them and give them the best possible life. I think that is the essence of being a parent. I think it's the essence of being a great partner, is when you look at the person that you love, you want to provide ample opportunity for them to have the most amazing experience that is life that's possible. And so I think it's really noble as a human being to want to give that opportunity to your other half. The thing that I was confused by, and I disagreed with, and I'll let you have your say on the sentiment behind this, but the idea that it's your partner's responsibility to support your dreams and have no negative emotional complaints. And I know you're big on not complaining. And I think that's a noble message in itself, but I think it's important to recognize that as human beings, we're ultimately flawed. Everybody complains from time to time. Everybody has negative emotions and thoughts and feelings. It's the product of being a human in a world that's uncontrollable. And so for me, I thought, as a guy who's married in a relationship, albeit only for the last 3 and a bit years, I feel like one thing I've learned is that it would be unfair of my partner to expect perfection from me, and it would feel selfish to expect that from her.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one part that really didn't sit with me.
And I agree with you. That's not what the message is. Of course we're going to have bad days. We're not going to have this perfect life where there's not a day that goes by where we're not really having the best day. Like, we're going to have bad days. But doing that every day, just because you feel like you need to survive and you need to be independent, I don't want it. I'm not having it. And if you want to complain all you want, go for it. But you're not my woman. You're not. We have bad days. We all do. But I would hope that the man that I've become and the man that I can be for her gives her the trust and security that even if she feels like she's in a storm, she can walk in the door and feel safe. And she can just not have these worries. And if she's redlining all day doing something that she doesn't even like doing for the sake of it, no reason, just because she feels like she needs to, that's where I draw the line. Like, if she comes home and she's excited, she's just made all this money, she's got this job, she's the girl I'm chatting to right now, who I'm, like, to be honest, quite in love with. It's crazy. And she works. She makes great money, and she works in a hospital, and like, she's not, she has a full-time job, right? Do I not want her to do that? No. But when she comes home, she is so excited. I learned this new thing. This happened. Oh my gosh, I had this new doctor that I was working with, and he did this new surgery that I've never seen before, and I learned this new thing about this. Did you know that this? She's not coming home being like, that was just like not it every day. And if she was, I'd be like, why are you doing that then? And I think there's something powerful in this, because the underlying thing that I think is flawed in society is that we accept people living a life that they don't want to live and think that that's normal. Someone complains about their day every day and we think it's okay. They go, oh, it's work. Lucky it's Friday. It's like, no, that's the most ridiculous concept ever. Imagine spending most of your hours doing something that you don't even like for someone that you don't even care about. Also, you can have some money to be able to do something that you want to do in your free time, but your free time, you're drained anyway because you've been spending all of your mental energy on something that you hate for most of your hours. It's like, that's not normal. Like, that should not be acceptable. But it's how most people live their life. I'm all for women working. I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole. That a personal desire that I have is I want my partner to want to be a mum. Personal desire. I don't want my children being parented by other children's parents. And so to do that, she needs to be around the kids. So it is a desire that I have. And so perhaps maybe someone that does want to be a CEO and work a job that she's really passionate about for the rest of her life and she doesn't want to be a mum, that's not my person. I want someone to want to be a mum. But at the core of all of this, I think that there's this element of passion that I think women can really thrive when they feel like they can make the decisions on passion and desire. The moment she feels like she needs to make them on survival and need, I think she's not going to get the best version of herself. The other pillar in there, I don't think she needs to go through challenge, pain, and hardship. That as a blanket approach is flawed, I think. I think that everyone needs to go through certain challenge, pains, and hardships to become an amazing person. Broad approach. But I think there's a lot of challenges, pains, and hardships that we can shield from women to make them not stress and worry and go into survival mode and make the best version of them come to life. Yeah. The pillar there of like a man that's on a mission needs to have someone there that, you know, can bring that calm, harmony, peace, and love. I still stand true by that. And equally, a woman to feel like she's in her element and in the best state possible, she needs a man to make her feel like she can really be calm, relax, and lean into the things that she truly wants to do. And so for me, I'm not trying to tell someone to live their life in a certain way. All I want to be able to do is to be able to empower everyone to be able to make the decisions that they actually want. Not what people think that they should do, not what society's telling them to do, not what's going to make their parents happy. Like deep down what they want. Like ask like a third level why of like, why am I doing the thing and do I actually want to do it? And if not, what is something that I do really want to do? I want them to do that. I want them to make the decisions on that. And I want to be able to be the person in their life that can give them that freedom of choice, because most men can't give their woman that freedom of choice. I've seen it my whole life. That's not been an option. And so I want to be able to give that freedom of choice. So when she says, hey, I want to go do this, we can go do this. And I love it when someone's got passion in their life. Like when someone's eyes light up with what they're doing, it's the most like exciting thing in my whole life. Because I know how I feel when I'm passionate about something. And the moment you strip that away from someone, I don't think they're ever going to become the best version of themselves. So ultimately, that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I found, you know, and I love that you've had the chance to explain this, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, this is the first time you've been encouraged to have this conversation in a two-way setting where you can go back and forth and explain ideas.
Yeah, well, I think it's been the first time where someone hasn't agreed with it all. Because I went on someone, but the woman that I went on the podcast with, Rebecca, she disagreed with everything that I said. And so it wasn't like a bit of back and forth. So I think it's productive.
She agreed or disagreed?
She agreed with everything. Yeah.
It's interesting. I find, you know, and I love that we can have this conversation, because as I said, I disagreed with what I saw in a clip. But knowing you, I thought there's a bigger conversation to be had here with Chris, because I don't believe you're a malicious person. I know you to be a good person. I know you to be a person who the people that are in your life and exist around you really admire you in the same way that you admire and respect them. And so I was interested to dig below the surface and have that conversation. And it's not a conversation I wanted to have with you over Messenger, because it feels like a null and void way to have that conversation. It feels like a face-to-face thing. And I guess the one thing that I struggled to see is online, and I'll ask you about your response in a second. But I feel like there were a lot of things that you were branded during that time, be it financially manipulative, abusive in a bunch of different ways.
Manosphere, all the thing.
Yeah, which I thought, okay, this is, people are misinterpreting the intention of what you were saying, albeit, me disagreeing with a few things in that clip. But I wonder for you, what compelled you to respond in the way that you did? Because I did find your response a little bit maybe stubborn, which I can understand as you probably wanting to stand your ground, as you said. But I thought, I wonder whether there was any value in you responding, or in hindsight, do you feel like maybe you should have just left it and not responded at all?
No response is still a response.
Do you think that means negative or positive though?
It's up to interpretation, and I don't like that, because I like to let people know where I stand. The response was extremely true to myself. To be honest, I dialed it back a little bit. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever. That would never, ever blow up in America. Ever. Australia is so sensitive. So sensitive. That would never blow up. Common sense went out the window. I've never, ever spoken to a woman at length about this topic, and they've not agreed with me or been like, okay, that makes sense. Ever. Because all I'm trying to do is empower them to be the best version of themselves with whatever that is. And to be honest, if we just call it what it is, most men will never get to the position of being able to do that for a woman. So the only men that are really mad are ones that maybe can't do that. And then the only women that are really mad is maybe that don't have a man that does that for them.
Do you think though that that's a flaw of the men that can't?
Yeah, I think it's entirely on the men. This whole conversation comes down to men being too weak, in my opinion.
Is that an unrealistic expectation though? To think that and I understand, there is two camps in my head. One camp in my head that is unbelievably optimistic and a dreamer by nature, which is why we're sitting here, because I have big hopes, dreams and ambitions of my own. But there is also a part of my head that recognizes that not everybody wants to walk the path of ambition. And that doesn't make them, because they can't financially provide by themselves, in a world where things are more expensive, like especially I'm sure it's the same in many cities overseas, but I know in Australia, I sell houses, it's my day to day, and it's bloody expensive. I sell plenty of houses around the $2 million mark, and you're looking at around $14,000 a month in mortgage repayments, which is more than most people make in a month. And so when you look at the realities of being able to exist in society right now, it is probably grossly unrealistic for 80% of people to be in a position where they could provide for their families of one income, unless they move.
Yeah, unless they move. Yeah, way more than 80%. Most people can't, right?
So I wonder, I don't think that's a flaw of the men, though.
Okay. Well, is it possible to be able to make the money?
Absolutely. However, I think in a functioning society where trades, jobs of high necessity and significance that aren't exactly, I recognize we do pretty jobs. These jobs on the surface are, they've got their challenges and their difficulties like any job, of course. But we're pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lucky that I essentially talk to people or sell things for a living. I spent 4 months working, 5 months actually, as a labourer in between real estate gigs, where I wanted just to keep some income coming through, and essentially needed it at the time. And I worked with guys, 2 to 4 days a week. Those guys showed up 5 to 6 days a week, and I was burning 4,000 calories a day at work. It was hard work, and some guys do that for 40 years of their life before they retire. And I understand that that's a choice. But for some of those guys, I know that their existence was, I go to work so I can go home and be present with my kids in the afternoon and provide. But it wasn't as simple as providing for all of their needs. Their partners work too. And I knew them to be good guys.
It definitely doesn't mean that they're bad men. In fact, most people might like the idea of my life, but living it's not. There's a lot of stuff that's not favorable. It's not fun at times. It's lonely. It's isolating. There's an increased level of pressure. Most of the time it's self-inflicted. it's not like it's some grandiose life. I'm no better than any single person on this planet. I don't like this idea of good or bad. It just is. I'm not better than anyone. However, you don't see me complaining about anything. You can work in the trade and still love your life. But if you complain about what you do, that's on you. You're choosing to do something day in, day out that you don't like.
But put complaining to the side for the minute. I'm talking about like being able to financially provide for a family.
Yeah, well, it's possible. And so this is the whole thing, is like, I understand that it's harder. I understand that it's not black and white, and like, you can't just go, oh yeah, well, this thing is going to guarantee me this money and this thing's going to guarantee me this money. It's not like that. It's very unknown. It's very unclear. But what's the main reason that we're here? And it's got nothing to do with money. But I truly believe that one's primary mission on this earth is to find why they are here. Because when you can feel that and you have this clear understanding, by the way, you never find it. You just always get closer to it. It's sharpening the sword. But without even having the desire to go and find who you are, and you fill your days with noise, not letting any free space to invite any thought in, to understand who you are, it's pretty likely that you're not going to be very happy, because you're not going to be fulfilled. There's going to be this missing part in your life, a lack of purpose, a missing why. Choose whatever you want to do with your life. But is it really what you want to do? Or are you doing it just for the sake of it? And I touch on this a lot, but it's really important to note, because one of the counter arguments with the whole thing that blew up is that I'm putting too much unrealistic pressure on men. It's one of the things that people say. And to that message, I say good. And the only reason I say that is because the most life-changing moments for me have been the challenges. It's been this time where it really sucked. The reason I can look in the mirror and truly be proud of who looks back is because of all those times. So if the men are shielding themselves from all challenge because they're playing it safe, are they really going to be proud of who they are? And the common denominators in suicide notes for men is that they feel useless and they feel worthless. It's the most common words that they see in suicide notes. They feel useless and worthless. It's got nothing to do with the money that they make. It's the fact that they don't have a place on this earth. And when you can provide for someone and give them that freedom of choice, I guarantee you'll feel useful. You'll feel worthy. And so I'm not saying it's the only way to live life, but what I am saying is a really, really, really powerful feeling is to feel useful and to feel worthy, to feel confident, to feel proud. And maybe this isn't the only way, but going through challenge and embarking on a journey to find who you are builds up those things that so many people lack. And I just think if everyone just took ownership of that and just realized that you can live however you want. I don't like this idea of rules. I don't like this idea of having these ceilings that you just make up in your life. They're not real. These rules aren't real. They're all fake. You've made it all up. It's all perceived. And I don't like this idea because it boxes people in. If you want to do something, do it. Don't think about it. Don't just debate doing it. Just do it. Like, what do you have to lose? What you'll find is when you act on those things that your soul calls you to do, you find out a bit more about yourself, and it's the most amazing feeling that you ever feel. And so my message is never like, you're a piece of shit. My message is just, if you just take ownership and realize that maybe the life that you're living isn't the life that you actually want to live, and you have the ability to change it, up to you what you want to do with that knowledge. But I think it's a productive conversation to have. And I think it's far more important than saying, oh, you're okay, man. It's all good. Like, take a chill pill. Your life's great. Like, even if you don't really feel that deep down. And so when things like this blow up, of course I'm going to double down on it because I'm so passionate about it, because it happened to me. My life's changed, and in a way that I feel very called to help other people do the same. And and I'm never ever gonna, but you can take everything from me. You can take away every cent I've ever, every penny I own, every materialistic thing, every relationship I have. You can take away all of it before I sell my soul, before I go against what my soul actually really wants and desires. And that's why I stood back and bounced back the way that I did.
Yeah, it's certainly a sentiment that I echo. I love this. As I said, there is one part of my brain that is dreamer archetype, which is I love the idea of there being no ceiling for anyone, and I love seeing people out there having a crack. I think it's important to note too, and I know you would probably echo this sentiment. Tell me whether you disagree or not, but this idea that finding your thing, finding what you want to commit a huge part of your life to, doesn't necessarily have to be your career. One thing that I love about, especially men as they get older, is you find that men in their older ages have these weird little quirks or interests or habits that, form a huge part of their life or their passion outside of work. Whether it's play the piano, or no one kind of knows about it, but they love their time on the piano, or they've got some other kind of weird hobby that they're interested in. I think having those things in life is really important for anyone. And it's always interesting to hear what those things look like for people, maybe behind the scenes or that we get to see online. But I wonder for you how you think kids change the conversation. I've seen a bunch of statistics lately that represent, particularly in young men, I think being a man who's on the cusp of 30, you think a lot about what it means to be a man in this world right now and what those dynamics look like. And there seems to be a lot of younger guys that are struggling with these ideas, like you said, of feeling useless or not having a place or purpose in the world. And I think this conversation is really relevant. But you see that there are huge detrimental factors for those young men who don't have present fathers in their life. And I feel like the luckiest man in the world, having had two amazing parents, but a dad that worked really hard, but also was very present with us kids. He was always around. And I worry whether in the modern world with people working a whole lot, I think it's aspirational to see a parental figure who works really hard, as my parents did, but it's also really important to have them present, to be able to have the conversations, the hands-on time. So do you think that there is kind of an argument there too for dad shouldn't work too hard, that he's never around?
Yeah, defining hard work's important. I don't like this. Like hard work for me is being a tradie and working and picking up bricks all day and coming home with a sore back, drained. There's two types of tired.
The mental and the physical.
I think there's two types of mental tired. One is when you get to the end of the day and you go, and then there's another tired where you go.
For those listening, there's a smile on his face on the second side.
Right? And I like the second one. I don't like the first one. You can still get tired from something that lights you up. That means you're doing something right. It means you're giving it a red hot crack. It means you're pushing the boundaries a little bit. But you're doing it with something that aligns with you. You will not get to the end of the day after working all day on something that really fulfills you and feel like shit. You'll feel inspired, but you'll feel tired.
Yeah.
And I like that feeling. And talk about quality time spent with someone, your kids in this example, right? I think this is important to note because you talk about hard work, you talk about time spent. I would argue that the time spent with your kids is more important than the amount of time spent with your kids. You work all day on something that you don't like to do to provide for your family. You get home, you're mentally drained. So what you feel like doing is sitting on the couch and maybe putting on the football or just relaxing because you're so drained. Now, if you get home at 5 p.m. and you get 4 hours to spend with your kids, cool. If you're extremely drained because you've just spent a whole day on something that drains you, are those 4 hours really going to be good representations of the father and the man that you are for your kids? Or if you spent 2 hours, but you were inspired, you lit up, you were kind to others, you had stories to tell, You had something unique happen that was new that you weren't expecting. You've got like this passion about whatever you did throughout the day. And in those 2 hours, your kid's got this massive influx of, oh my God, dad's happy. Dad's excited. Would that be better than the 4 hours spent where you're drained? I would argue that it would be. So then the argument then becomes, is it actually about the amount of time you've spent with your kids, or the amount of quality time you spent with your kids, and the impact that that can make on your kids? I'm saying this as a single 23-year-old naive man. But what I would suggest is that when I think about all of the most amazing memories with my dad, it was not when he was tired, lack of energy. It was when he was doing something that he loved. The things that come to my mind straight away is when I'm sitting there watching him play the guitar or the piano when he's doing a gig. My dad's a musician.
Oh, is he actually?
Yeah.
There you go.
Like that, I don't remember when he got home from his work at the Big Four caravan park and he got home and cracked open a beer. I don't remember my moments with him when I got home from school and I was chatting to him about his day when he had this boss that was bossing him around that was just an absolute dick. But I remember when he took me over to the island in the Whitsundays and I was sat there building a puzzle while he was playing the guitar and people were dancing while he was singing a song. So I wasn't even with him. I was just watching him. But that left way more of an impact on me than when he got home from a long day at work. And so there's so much to unpack here. Hard work needs to be defined, because hard work isn't always bad. But mentally draining hard work, doing something that you don't like to do, is different than doing something that really inspires you and lights you up and requires a lot of time, energy, and focus, but it fulfills you. And I think when you can do more of those green light tasks with the things that light you up and disregard and delegate and not do the things that drain you, the best version of yourself is going to present to be able to show up for all the people that you care about in your life, your partner, your kids, your family, your loved ones. And so, yeah, I think it's not as black and white. And I think people leave it at that and they draw the line a bit too early. And what you'll notice with everything I'm sharing today and anything I talk about, I always dive deep. I always just go like, okay, why and why and why? And when you get to the bottom of it and you can make your decisions on those answers, I think ultimately we show up way better in the world.
I agree with you that it's not black and white. I think it's certainly hard to be objective about these things because the experience of, as you said, for me, when I worked the trade, it actually energized me quite a bit. So I was full of life when I come home. It was something about being physical that I think resonated with my interests, that I came home with a lot of energy. Granted, I only did it for a few months of my life, but you're right. There is, it's easy to put a bow on something and think that it's black or white. Not always the case. I want to talk about this idea of pursuing dreams. It's been a huge part of the last couple months of your life. You got on a plane, you went over to the US of A where the eagles fly and the flags flap behind the wings of the eagles to pursue your dream. It's been a crazy couple of months. Tell me about that experience of landing in the US and going, hey, I'm going to take on this dream of mine head on.
Humbling. I got warned before I went there. They're like, Chris, you're the big dog in Australia. You're doing quite well. But you're going to get to America and no one is going to care about you. No one cares that you have a big show on this little island that none of them have been to because the flight's too long. They like the idea of Australia and Australians, but they're not going there. 16 hours on a flight? You kidding? Get out of here. No one's going to care about you. And I remember thinking in that moment, come on, mates. They're going to care. I'm doing well. I'm crushing it. He was right. I got there. No one cared about me at all. No one. No one cares. And so it was humbling because it felt like you're starting again.
Was that refreshing in a way?
Yes and no. I mean, the timing of it was great because Australia didn't really like me when I left. And so I liked that idea just because I just didn't really – I love Australia, but I don't love the mindset of a lot of the people here. I do think that common sense gets thrown out the window. I think it is a bit ridiculous to think that I hate women based off that clip. I think it's silly.
Can I ask you a question though? Do you think that – I was talking to my previous guest about this. Do you think that that's because the ratio of negative to positive online is far higher than it actually is in real life? And like a huge part of what you do is online?
Well, I mean, yeah, we just have a negativity bias. No one has ever come up and said something negative in person. No one. And so user 466 with pink hair and a nose ring telling me that I'm a horrible person doesn't really affect me. I don't really care. I got thousands of those. It's crazy how many blue hair, pink haired, nose ring people there are in Australia. It's crazy. But
do you think it doesn't affect you though, or does it subconsciously wear away at you? Even if it doesn't change the way that you feel about yourself, surely it's got to fatigue you in some way.
It definitely doesn't fatigue me. In fact, if you ask anyone in my life at that point in my time, people were shocked. Like, my Whoop scores, which Whoop dropped me, one of the brands, they dropped me when it all went down, which was fun. But like, my Whoop scores that week were higher than they'd ever been. Like, I was sleeping and recovering better than I ever had in my life the week that it all went down. Because it was this positive feedback loop, dude. I got presented with all of these hatred messages, and I wasn't fazed. So then I had this reminder of, oh my God, I'm in a storm right now and I'm not even being moved. If I can do this, then I can do anything. And so then my body central nervous system just fully calmed. That's why I had the courage to be able to share my thought. I just didn't really care. It was a shame because I truly love Australia. It's still to this day, I want to raise my family here. I love Australia. But it is quite sensitive. Like even just seeing some of the ridiculous stuff they do, like remove the weights from the Bondi outdoor gym because it's attracting too much masculinity or in testosterone or whatever they said. Like, all that stuff's ridiculous. I don't actually agree with that, and I'm never ever going to stand by that if I don't feel like that's right. And so for all of this, it's going, I want to champion Australia, but I'm not going to champion people that throw common sense out the window. I'm not having it. Like, we're so quick to shut people down. We're so quick to try and silence people. We're so quick to say that someone's doing something wrong. No one's allowed opinions unless it's supportive of the masses. Like, I'm not having any of that. And so if we go back to the initial question of moving overseas and how was it, there was an element of like perfect timing. Everything really was perfect, divine, and right on time, because I had this freeing nature going over there of I can say whatever I really want. I don't really care if someone doesn't agree. My favorite message ever to receive, ever. My favorite message. And I've received a lot of them in that time. Chris, I love what you say, but I don't agree with this. It's my favorite message ever to receive because it shows that I'm being real. If you agree with everything that someone says online, there's something fake going about them. We're never going to agree on everything. And so if you agree with everything that someone says, they are not sharing everything that they think. And so when someone says that I love what you do, but I don't like this, it reminds me that I'm doing what I want to do and I'm staying true to myself. And so when I went to the US, while I did that, I didn't grow. I spent 3 months in Austin and I didn't move the needle. I made a lot of money in my business. I had an education company and that was going really, really well. But my show, which was the primary reason I moved over there, wasn't growing. And so it was this element of, okay, what was the thing that made me grow early days? My back was against the wall. And while I wasn't going to put my back against the wall financially again, which I would have done if I needed to, but I didn't have to, fortunately, while my back wasn't against the wall financially, I needed to find another way to put it against the wall. So I bought a bunch of podcast equipment, packed a couple of suitcases, and hopped on a plane with no idea who I was interviewing in the city I was going to. And I'm like, I'm in the desert right now and I don't want to be here in Arizona. It's hot. I've got 5 suitcases. I'm alone. We better find someone big to interview or else this is an absolute waste of time. I just want to go back to Austin. And we did this everywhere. We went from Austin to Houston to Sedona to Scottsdale to Atlanta to Florida to San Diego to Colorado to London to LA, back to Austin to Nashville to Atlanta, back to LA to Sydney here. We're going to Melbourne next week. We're going back to the Gold Coast and Byron, Hawaii, back to LA. And like, to be frank, it sucked. The first 7 weeks, I absolutely hated it. Every single day, I was like, I just want to go back to Austin. It's uncomfortable.
What did you hate about it?
I hated how much like I didn't hate it. It's probably a pretty strong word, but I was over the instability, last minute, excessive unorganization nature of it all. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was blowing cash, $50,000 to $70,000 a month just on like travel and Airbnbs and all this stuff. I was like, because when I was in Austin before I left, I went, if I keep going at the rate I'm going, I'm going to get to the end of the year and I'm not going to be happy with what I've done at all. And so for me, it was like, we need to like risk it all again. And so I just did that. And I didn't have an idea. And I think the lesson here is you don't need to have it all figured out. In fact, you're never going to have a day where it's all perfectly figured out. Never. And that's okay. But the inaction is going to guarantee that you're not going to get where you want to get. So for me, it was like I had no idea what I was doing. But I just had to keep walking in the dark, hoping to find the handle of the next door. And we did this, and we went everywhere. And it wasn't until I got to London, like 7 weeks after this whole tour, and we did this massive cinema production. I was interviewing Robin Sharma and big people that I've always looked up to, Rory Sutherland, all these guys. And we're sat at this table.
How goes Rory?
Oh, he's awesome. I mean, it's funny. The top comment of the podcast was, it was because he doesn't let you get a word in. If you speak to him, you're never going to say anything. So don't even worry. If you're going to tell a story, it's going to get cut off 8 times, and you'll bring it up. And the top comment was Rory saying, "Have you heard of this guy Steve? You should interview this guy Steve." And then I come back and say, "Well, right now I'm trying to interview you, but I can't even get out a cent." And then he cuts me off, and it was like this perfect comment where it was like, "I'm trying to interview you now. Don't tell me about interviewing someone else." And then he would like cut me off before I could even finish that sentence.
Have you seen his interview with Alex O'Connor?
No, I haven't.
The Cosmic Skeptic, where they're literally walking. He's like, "Well, it's been great to chat to you, Rory." And Rory just keeps going. He keeps trying to finish the interview. And he's like, "We're running out of time. We've got to get out of the space that we're in." And they literally finish the podcast walking off the set.
Yeah.
Because he can't stop him.
It's so Rory. Yeah. I mean, my producer was like, "Hey, we're just going to roll the cameras before he gets here because it's going to be a podcast as soon as he walks in." And so we rolled in, sat down, and anyway. But when I was sat there at that table, I had my legs up on the podcast table. We had this massive set and this old exposed brick, awesome like library looking room, and we just had this awesome conversation with Robin Sharma. We had another person come in. It was phenomenal. And I'm sat there and I had this realization, it was this profound realization, and it all started to make sense. The first 7 weeks of that tour was horrible. I just was so alone. I was so isolated. I questioned what I was doing every day because we weren't getting any results. We were like spending all this money. We were doing unnecessary stuff. I had all this equipment. Every single flight cost like $1,000 because baggage in America, by the way, it's the most capitalistic place. Every single time they can charge, there's no handouts at all. I learned a great thing from Rory in that podcast about relational capitalism, which I really resonated with, which America has none of. If you like everything they will charge you for. And so like having all these overweight bags, like it was like $600 per flight just to check in my bags of podcast equipment. I'm not getting any results, and the people I'm reaching out to are not responding to me, all this stuff. And then I did this production and I just had this like profound realization of, oh my God, it all makes sense. I know what I need to do now. And I had this realization that there's, in the podcasting world, there's 2 parties. There's the big dogs, and they lead the pack. They've found their lane, they hone in on it, they do it really well, and they're crushing it. And then you have the small dogs. And the small dogs basically just copy the big dogs in any way, shape, or form. And they'll forever be in the big dog's shadow. Forever. Because they don't have the resources like the big dogs do. They're not as competent as the big dogs. And they're playing the game that works for the big dogs, not for them. And so if my goal is building the biggest show in the world, I can't play in either of those fields because I'm not there yet, and I can't copy them because I'll be in their shadow. So my realization was, okay, let's pour all my money, like let's make a boatload of money, and let's pour it all into experimentation and find something that's unique that works for me, because most of the small dogs don't have any money to be able to do it. So I was like, okay, that's my superpower. Let's pour the money into experimenting on things that will be unique to me, find something that works. Then when I find a lane that's me, that works, we double down, and then that's how I'll build the biggest show in the world. It can't be copying them. And so then I went, oh shit, it took me this 7 weeks of like hell to realize this small little thing that actually pivoted all of the things that I was doing. We made the whole switch of the editing team, my editing team, we changed the whole focus, and we were still growing. And my team were like, Chris, we're growing more than we ever have. Why would we change the strategy? And I was like, we're growing, but we're not growing at the rate that we need to grow to build the biggest show in the world. So we can't do this. We're getting like 4 million views a month, and changed the whole strategy. And within 6 weeks went from 4 million to 20 million views a month. The show doubled in listens and downloads, and now we're at 30 million views a month, and things growing, and we're off to the races. So when you talk
about the views, you mean like on social media?
On socials, yeah. So there's like 200,000 people listening every single month on the audio platforms, and then we have 30 million views on short form, and I want to get to 40 mil by the end of the year, and I want to double that by middle of next year again.
So let me ask you quickly before we glaze past this. What is the thing that you decided to hone in on and be the best you could possibly be at?
Yeah, so I think what I'm doing now with these productions, it's still an element in like Chris Williamson's shadows a little bit. Like the most common comment when people are talking about the productions is like, this is the next Chris Williamson. I don't like that because I want to be me. Don't like, yes, he's leading the pack, but I want to be me. And so, but the thing is as well, I'm also 15 years younger than him. And so if I just, I want to do this for forever. And so I'm not really worried about trying to like beat him or anything. In fact, like I'm connected with Chris, and I was backstage with him at his show in Nashville, and it's really cool to see him acknowledge and see all my stuff and have it all pop up on his feed and stuff, which is great. But I think for me, like the element of doing unique sets in cool locations with cool people. So I want to, like, for example, like I want to do a big cinema production on a volcano in Hawaii. I want to pick up The Rock in a helicopter, and I want to take him to this set on his home island on the top of a volcano and film a podcast and have a drone recording us. And I want to like go into the middle of the Amazon jungle and get on a helicopter and take like a big guest into the tabletop in the Amazon jungle. I connected with a guy that knows it like the back of his hand, and I want to like do all of these cool things. I want to go to the Northern Lights and build these sets. And I think when you can tie in the uniqueness of me, I'm a good looking, young, intellectual guy that can articulate things better than a lot of people. Now, people will call that cocky in Australia. People will call that confident in America. Label it however you want. I'm leaning into my superpower. I know that there's very little people with who I am, similar to me, doing what I'm doing in the whole world. So I'm leaning into the fact that I'm youthful and young. I'm good looking. And I am spending so much time in solitude and alone and taking so much risks that I'm growing at such a quick rate. And I'm so self-reflective and so willing to learn, grow, improve, and have humility to change my views that I think at the rate in which I'm growing with the uniqueness that I have, tied on top with the money that I'm making to be able to pour into experimentation and do cool things that only the greats can do. If I just expand the time horizon out and only interview people that I'm genuinely very curious in, so I get the best version of me and the guest, if I tie all of that in and expand the time horizon, like, it's a winning formula, and I'm already seeing it happen. The switch we made was, I realized that we're 100 episodes in and we're only posting clips from the last week's episodes. It's ridiculous. Let's change the strategy here. I don't want, like, my editing team doesn't have a minimum per episode now. If the episode's shit, we just won't post any clips. Their job is we're posting at least 2 videos every single day, and they have to be viral worthy. If you send me one and I don't think it's viral, we're not posting it. And I know that the quality of the content in 100 episodes, or 115 now, I know the quality of the content in these episodes that we can do that. We can make 2 viral clips every single day. Not every one of them is going to go viral. But I know that the success rate of, if I feel like the only ones we post are viral, I know that we're going to get a lot more that can go viral. Most people might find one that has potential maybe in one of their episodes. But if we're posting a minimum of 14 every single week, tying them with all the other things I'm doing, I don't feel like anyone in the world is going to be able to match me. And I truly believe that. And so that's what I feel like is my unique edge. It's not like one thing, it's all of it. And you tie all of that in, and I think all of it's just going to compound. And so that's my little formula.
I love that of those three strengths you have, we have one in common, that we're both young. So that's
But I think you need to look beyond that, because
I'm joking, of course, but it's one of those things that I think is very challenging in this space, right? Is to find your uniqueness. I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest with you. And I change my mind on that. Week after week, I watch the episodes back. I think about, where is my place in this space? Because it is a one thing I admire about you is watching you build what you have built and see the beautiful sets. And creatively, my mind loves all of that stuff. So I love watching you put that stuff together. Is when someone figures it out, that deep-seated desire in you to like, hey, how can I figure it out for me? And what does that look like? And how does that differ from that person I'm seeing over there? And that impulse to want to create your version, I think is really inspiring.
One thing that I'm just going to really emphasize here and hone in, anyone can do that. And like we spoke about it earlier around, like, if you don't try, you're guaranteeing you'll never get it. You can go back on A Lot to Talk About's podcast and see our last talk and see where I was 2 years ago. Just have a look. And my hope is that you'll be able to see that and go, holy shit, I can't even recognize that person. And all that took was courage to stop living in fear and just going, okay, I'm going to actually do and act on the things that I really want to do. I don't know what that looks like. I did not know that I was going to build a cinema production in Malibu as the sun was setting by myself, by the way. I had no idea even how to turn the cameras on and what settings it was. I rented them all, and I just observed the production team that I had paid previously. I just observed the equipment they had, and then I looked up rental house in LA, and I rented all the equipment that I saw they had, and I just picked it all up, drove 2 hours, picked up all this equipment, went to Malibu, and just started building it the day before just to figure it out. I just put 2 and 2 together of how they did it in the other sets. And then I was fortunate enough that the guest that came to record with me, Marshall, had a videographer there. And I was like, hey, I don't know, these cameras look pretty messed. I don't actually really know how to set them up. Can you help me? And he's like, yeah, I use these FX3s every day. I know how to do it. So then he set up the cameras and like looked at it all. And the whole message here is it's extremely scrappy. And my whole last 2 years has been that I still don't know what I'm doing. Like
I think that's just life, isn't it?
I don't. I'm still figuring it out. But I have courage to act on the things that I want to do. And like, just look at what I was doing 2 years ago. The conversation we had 2 years ago was about how I started being sad in my car, crying and making quote videos. And that was literally 2 years ago. And now I'm literally my life is day and night different. I had no idea that I was going to be where I am today. But all it was removing this state of fear and being very self-reflective, and then seeing what came up when I was self-reflective, when I had space to invite new thought in. And then when I thought of something that inspired me and lit me up, I acted on it. And that's where the change happens. It's not like a one revelation. It's all these micro little actions of uncertainty and doubt and failure that then led me to where I am today.
Stephen Pressfield says, the more important to your soul's growth, the stronger the resistance will be. What's your resistance?
What does that mean?
The more important to your soul's growth, so the more you desire something, the more you are driving to achieve or become or be something in the world, the more resistance. His idea of resistance is adversity, personal struggle, inner challenge there will be. What do you think for you? What is the thing that really at the moment you are grappling with? The things.
Yeah. When you have extreme trust, there's no resistance, because you know that it's actually meant to be good or bad. So it would be ridiculous of anyone to think that you're never going to have challenge. So if you expect there to be challenge, you're not surprised when you're presented with it. And then when you have gone through more of that challenge, you gain trust that everything's going to be okay. So it's hard for me to pinpoint resistance points in my life, because when I'm presented with a challenge, I know it's all part of the process. I truly am convicted with trust. Like I just look at all of it, and I just get so convicted of the message that the more challenges is probably a good sign that you are on the right track.
Let me put it this way. You put weight on the bar, you know it's going to be heavy. You still got to lift it.
Yeah. And if you don't want to lift it, which a lot of the time maybe you don't, think about what the consequence of that is. Because the consequence of you lifting it may mean that it falls on your chest and you've got to like hop around and maybe like push the barbell to the side so the weights can fall off so you can actually be a little bit free. And then maybe you've got a little bit of a sore shoulder because of that action. But then the inaction and not lifting the bar in the first place has its own sacrifice and risk too. It means that you're stuck in the same spot. You've created a ceiling in your mind that you can't lift something. At least if you've tried, you've figured it out what you need to do to work on. Like, okay, when I did that lift that was heavier than I've ever done before, I got the first half up, but then I struggled with the second half. My triceps are too weak. Okay, we need to work on our triceps more before I do this lift again. You see, without the action, you never know where went wrong. Of course, you don't know where to work on to improve. So the action gives you information on what you need to do with it, do to improve it. The problem with it is a lot of people take the action, they don't even look within and go, what went wrong? So then they try and do the action again and end up in the exact same spot. They get into a relationship that drains them. They end it and they say, she was just battling. She had so many problems and like the poor girl couldn't look after me. And then they get on with their day and then they meet someone else. And then she does him wrong or whatever. And then he goes, she was battling. Well, do you think that if it happens multiple times and you have the exact same feeling multiple times, you think they're the problem? It's you. It's always you. It really is. And how freeing is that to know? Because then when you get presented with it, it is up to you. The onus is on you. The control is in your hands. You've got power. The moment you push all your problems onto someone else, you have zero power of your emotion and how you feel. You'll end up in the exact same spot. You'll keep doing things you don't want to do. And then you'll wonder why you're not happy. And even if we tie back into the whole thing of the people coming for me in Australia, it's all projection. I don't care what anyone says. It's all projection. Yeah, there might be something that rubbed off on you in the wrong way. Fine. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. So if you're projecting hate from something that you've seen online, perhaps, maybe not, perhaps it's telling you a little bit about yourself. It's up to you whether you want to blame the mirror or take ownership for what you see. And I think it's the most freeing feeling to be able to truly embody that and use that with everything that you do in your life and the way that you feel.
I wonder for you, Chris, being over the other side of the world, one thing that I often think about in America is they have a greater urban sprawl. You see different ways of living, different environments to exist in. And of course, in a country like Australia where we have such a beautiful coastline, you know, I think it's something like 95% of our population lives on the coast. Has been over in that part of the world, having travelled between different states, been in different settings. Like I know you just recently filmed on a tobacco farm, which I think is really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing that footage. Has it allowed you to think about a new possibility for the way that you live and set up your life than maybe you had dreamed of before?
I feel I had big dreams in Australia too. Maybe they weren't really supported. And so maybe there's an element of what I was once thinking has now gone on steroids, and people still support the steroided version of those dreams, which is quite freeing.
In America, you mean?
Yeah. So like when I before I went to America, I said I'm going to interview Matthew McConaughey this year, and every single person I told laughed in Australia. Everyone. then I got over to America, and when I tell them I want to interview Matthew McConaughey this year, they fist bump me and say, how can I help? Good on you, man. That's awesome. So I had the dream, but maybe I might have shut them down and refrained from sharing them as much because it wasn't supported. I've had pretty big goals and dreams for quite a while. The unlock is that I truly believe that everything is possible. I don't like this idea of compromise. Like I don't want to like have this and not have this. I just want it all.
I love Sir Anthony Hopkins. He said in his recent memoir, which I've been working my way through, act as if it's impossible to fail. I love that mindset.
Yeah.
I love that mindset. It's interesting when you talk about the shift in perspective between the US and Australia. I want to challenge you on this because I wonder whether it's just the fact that you are new in America, that there is no perceived notion of who you are because you're only existing there for the first time. You are kind of a new vessel, a new being when you cross the borderline and present yourself in a new country, that there is almost maybe a hopeful optimism that exists in people coming across you for the first time, that I think regardless of whether it's Australia, America, any country in Europe or Africa, that when you exist in a space and people know who you used to be, it's hard for them to see who you're going to become.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that maybe it has something to do with that, or do you genuinely think it's a cultural difference?
Well, fundamentally, the culture is different. Yeah, there's an element of like new. No one knows the past versions of yourself. Yeah. But if anything, if Americans knew the past versions of myself, they would be like blown away and supportive of the transformation. You know, Australia has this thing where they support you when you achieve the thing, but they don't support you when you voice it before achieving it.
I've heard a lot of musicians talk about that.
Yeah, so like have the big goal. They don't believe that it's possible. Achieve the big goal. They congratulate you for how good you're doing. Have another big goal. They're like, oh, mate, stay in your own lane. Like you're already doing so well. Like why do you need this next thing? Achieve the big goal. Like I always knew you were going to crush it. You know, one of the unlock realizations that I've had is people are going to wish they treated you better. The boss that treated you like shit, that didn't respect you, the friendship that betrayed you, the relationship that drained you, they're all going to wish that they treated you better. And that saying around success is the only revenge is so true. It's not about revenge in getting back at them. It's about revenge to remind you that the way that they treated you is not what you deserve. And when you have big goals and big dreams and things you're trying to achieve, people are not going to understand it. And that's okay. But it's up to you to have courage to take the leap, even though it's a dark tunnel that you're in, even though that you're not being supported. And just know that, especially in a culture like Australia, they are not going to support you. But when you achieve the thing, they're going to wish that they didn't talk shit about you. They're going to want to be around you. They're going to ask to pick your brain. They're going to ask to hang out with you. And unfortunately, for most instances, you're not going to have any time for them anymore. And it's not about the fact that like they're a dick and you're holding resentment against them. It's more so about the fact that you've embarked on a journey that was quite challenging. It was quite isolating. And because you've made it out the other end, you now have abundance and freedom of choice to not settle for anyone that you don't feel like is someone that's going to energize you and bring you value and not drain you. And really embodying that is the most freeing thing, because I don't really mind if someone doesn't agree with me, if someone doesn't feel like what I'm saying is right for them, or what I believe in is something they believe in, because I know that I believe in it and I know that I want it. And I also know that I'm going to go get it. And that is the unlock. Never trying to please anyone. It's not about that for me. I've spent way too much time alone, getting slammed in my face, had no one supporting me. And I'm never going to live in this state of just trying to do things for someone else. It never, ever benefits other people. When you show up in the best version of yourself, the authentic version of yourself, everyone around you starts to thrive too. They feel it. And just knowing that is quite profound for me. And it's a thing that I apply in my life.
Let me ask you, the goal of having the biggest show in the world, that's one thing. But of course, numbers are fleeting. Positions, polls, rankings are all fleeting. You will have them one day, the next day someone else goes past and it becomes this game of cat and mouse. But the substance of what you're trying to create, can you put that into words? If you think about what you're really trying to create with the show, what you're trying to lock onto, grab a hold of, outside of the creative of building beautiful sets and experiences, can you intellectualize that?
Make people feel seen and understood.
Is that because at one point you didn't feel that?
I think a lot of people don't feel it, myself included. I just want people to feel like they're less alone.
When you say people, is there a certain group of people? Do you see a demographic that seems to resonate with what you're saying, or is it just whoever wants to hear it?
I think the underlying message is that your life can change so quickly regardless of where you're at. And I hope that I'm embodying that and living that as an example. Like, I've lived 4 different lives in the last few years. And I've had courage to change and had humility to be able to change, because it takes courage and humility to be able to say, hey, no, I'm actually, what I once wanted is not what I want now. And I think people are really struggling. There's a lot of confusion in the world right now. People don't know how to act around others. They don't really know what they want in their life. They don't really know what's going to light them up. They feel a pressure from the people around them. They feel a confusion. There's like a fear of unknown and all of this. And I just hope that the things that I share will make people feel less alone. Articulate what's going on in someone's mind that they don't know how to articulate. And my job and what I feel called to do is be able to be so self-reflective myself that I can come up with answers that I know that I'm not alone in thinking. And I just want to be that person that can articulate that and speak what someone's feeling, because it's quite refreshing when someone can hear something that they have had on their mind but they weren't quite sure what it is. So I think when people feel seen and understood, they can feel a lot better about themselves.
Words you've used today, like trust, feeling seen, understanding yourself, self-awareness, they're all things that I feel, we're recording this for people who are listening maybe further down the line, very early in December 2025, and that means another year is behind us. And I think whether or not you believe in New Year's resolutions or New Year goals or end of year reflections, each to their own, I will say that there is an energy that for me I feel at the end of one year where I really reflect naturally, sometimes without too much prompt or real need to, but rather a desire to reflect on the year that was. And I can say that resoundingly, a consistent feeling that I have at the end of a year is, of course, pride for what I've achieved and come through in the last 12 months. But this feeling to want to let go a little bit, to return to myself after a year of being, for me, always incredibly ambitious and trying to achieve things and pursuing goals and being so focused on where I'm going, this desire to want to come back and be present, to be calm, to, as you said, trust that what I want is in my path, that I'm moving towards it. I think it was Timothy Chalamet that said you can be the master of your fate, you can be the captain of your soul, but you have to realize that life is coming from you, not at you, and that takes time. That's a lesson that I'm consistently trying to learn. To, of course, work, take action, pursue the thing, but to know that it's on my path and be okay with whether maybe today it's not there for me, but know that maybe tomorrow it will be. Is that a lesson that you resonate with?
So the game is not meant to be won if the game is not one you should play. I like this lens. Most people are playing a game they don't even want to win. They're just playing it. And then the second thing to that is, if you want to win, doing something that isn't working consistently is pointless. Like when you know something's not working, don't keep doing the thing that's not working. And that's every area of your life. If you're in a relationship and you don't like it, and you don't feel like that person's the one for you, your ability to have courage to leave it and course correct is doing everyone a favor, because it's a two-way street. And I like to look at the same with your goals, because you may have a goal and it's close to your heart and you want it, but you're doing something time and time again that's not actually getting you closer to it. And so your ability to be able to change is really important. And so when we were talking about before around the podcast growth, I was growing, sure, but I wasn't growing at the rate that I needed to achieve the goal. And so I could have this fear of going, I don't want to change this, it's working. And if I lived in that lens, I never would have tripled the show in the way that I did. And so it took courage to drop what was actually working, because I realized that it was working, but not to the level that I wanted. And so I think that, yes, I resonate to it to some degree, but I think that we need to really define work and realize that, if we're doing something that's not actually even getting us any closer to what we're doing, then it's actually pointless. Like consistency is good, but consistently shit is pointless. And so whenever I'm working with clients as well, I say to them, I go yeah, you've done 50 episodes, but you haven't grown from episode 20 to episode 50. So why are you still do you want to do this for another 50 episodes? Yeah. Okay. So if you want to do this for another 50 episodes, but what you're doing now hasn't worked for the last 30 weeks, what makes you think that keep doing that for 30 weeks is going to make it work? And so I like to just constantly check in with what I'm doing and making sure that it's aligning to where I'm trying to get to. And yeah, I think that's really important in every area of your life.
How often do you check in? I know you said constantly, but is there a kind of a routine or a rhythm to the way that you do that?
I would say that I check in incredibly regularly. I spend a lot of time alone. And so I think I check in with whatever's relevant in my life. I'm not going to check in with a trauma that happened 10 years ago and just check in to see if it's affecting me, because I haven't even thought about it for fucking a year. So I'm not going to just check in and try and surface something that doesn't actually change me that much, in my opinion. But I'll check in when I feel like I'm butting my head against the wall. I think the important thing for me is I like to onboard new things into my life. And the only way I can onboard something new is if I have free space to invite something in. And I think we kind of have this plate, and we onboard all these different things. And you're never going to onboard 100% of things that serve you. You're going to have free space. So you invite more stuff in, and some of that stuff will serve you, some of that stuff will not. And my whole goal is just to sharpen the sword. So when I onboard new things, I see what serves me and I keep it, and I double down on those things. And then I try and get rid of all the things that don't. So then I can invite more free space to invite more things in. And then I invite more things into this plate. And then I keep the things that serve me and disregard the things that don't. And ultimately, I don't want to live a life where I'm doing anything that doesn't serve me. I don't want to do anything that doesn't serve me. I don't like this idea of compromise. I don't want to do any red light tasks. Maybe that's unrealistic right now, but it's definitely a cool goal to strive towards. I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. Why?
Interesting idea that. Can we play on that and pull on that thread a little bit? I often think in relationship that you have to have this foundational agreement on values, a foundational idea of what you want your life to look like, and know that potentially that could be subject to change on both sides. I've heard two gentlemen over the space of 2 weeks on two different podcasts once, on the same podcast, sorry, but two different episodes, both talk about relationships. Both guys who I respected for their views on things talk about this and have complete opposite takes, which I thought was really interesting. One guy who said that you should never have to compromise in relationship, and another guy who said relationship is all about compromise. And I think that in life, in relationship, especially in whether it's your romantic relationship or a relationship with friends and family, I think there'll always be some fundamental level of compromise where not always your turn to have fun, especially if you've got kids. Maybe it's your wife's turn to go out with her mates and you're going to stay in and look after the kids, and vice versa. That's a very trivial example. Do you think that there is potentially a world, though, in which you don't have to compromise?
Well, I would love to see my wife's eyes light up with excitement. And if that means that she's going to go and do something, and when she's back with me and the time we spend together means that she's going to be extremely lit up and excited about whatever she did, that's a win. That's not compromise. That's a win.
So it's defining compromise.
Yeah. And also like that example you used around keeping the kid, like looking after the kid. If it feels like I would rather be doing something else,
then you got a problem.
Then I'll just get a night nanny, or I'll get someone in. Like, oh, okay, we're getting to a point where we're like, I'm having to cook more and I really don't want to cook. Okay, that's fine. Let's just hire a chef. I don't like any idea of compromise. Okay, most of the time you only have to compromise if you don't have the money to outsource the thing that you don't want to do. So my answer to not having compromise is probably just making more money, because like it will solve a lot of problems. Because why would I'm not going to get the best version of me doing something I don't want to do. Like, I don't really care about Macbeth. So when I was learning it in school, I didn't really do it. Now, did that negatively affect me now? Well, no, it's helped shape me into who I am today. But I think the underlying notion here is like, do you really have to do the thing? And do you really have to compromise? And this ties down to this thing around like, it's a free capitalistic nature of the world that we can actually make more money. We can actually hire a chef. We can actually hire a nanny. We can do it. And so maybe there's some world where there is a task that I have to do when I'm older. I mean, I still do compromise now. I'm doing things that I don't really want to do. Sometimes aspects, I can't think of anything right now, but like I still do things right now. But I think what I'm striving towards in the life I'm living is I want to strive towards a life where there isn't compromise. And, that dynamic around the relationship, I think, making sure that I can let my partner really do the things she's passionate and excited about. And I want her to want to do the things that she wants to do. And again, like I want my partner to want to be a mum. And so like, it's never going to be a matter of like, yeah, there's going to be hard days, and yeah, there's going to be days where parenting's not going to be fun. And I'm not saying it's going to be the smooth sail, but what I am saying is like, what I want to onboard and what I want to offer in my relationship is freedom of choice. Like if my partner doesn't want to do something, don't do it. If she doesn't want to cook, don't do it. We'll hire a chef. Like if she I don't want to cook, but if she doesn't want to cook, then we just have to find someone to do it. That's my lens. Yeah.
Let's focus on you personally for a second. One thing that I find interesting is listening to Tyson Fury, and I love boxing and love watching boxing, love hearing about the personalities that exist within the sport. Listening to Tyson Fury talk about how it's really important for him to have this balance where he can compete for a world title one night and the next morning do the tip run, drop the kids at school. I wonder, do you not think that it's fundamentally important at some level for us to have mundane tasks, things that don't necessarily light us up, but are an important part of functioning as a human being to develop character, to keep the feet on the ground, to have, I'm a big believer that a bad day for the ego can be a good day for the soul. Things that remind us that we're human.
Yeah.
That life isn't meant to always be easy.
Yeah. And so that wouldn't be compromised because I'd want to do it. And so like, if I want to mow the lawn, then I just do it.
So what's your definition of compromise?
Well, compromise would be doing something that you don't want to do. Because I wouldn't consider it compromise. Like,
do you not think that there's those things though? Like, some mornings you wake up, it's freezing cold. You love running. You love the gym. But right now I don't feel like it.
But I just don't.
But I know it's good for me.
Yeah, I just don't think that's compromise because I do those things every day. It was freezing this morning when I went for the run.
So maybe the better term is disciplines. To have disciplines.
Yeah, and so doing something that is going to better you, yourself, your future, the people around you, I wouldn't consider that compromise. I would consider that life. And in fact, if you're not doing any of that, I would say you're doing something wrong because you're not growing. Yeah, you're never putting yourself in anything uncomfortable. Compromise in my eyes would be doing something that you don't want to do for the sake of doing the thing.
Okay.
You're closed-minded to the idea of being able to not do the thing. Like compromise in my eyes would be doing something that drains you. Because you don't have to. I hate haves. I don't like people saying like you should or you have to do this. Like I just don't like the idea of it. It's hard for people to wrap their head around. And I understand that this is a very abundant look. I'm not saying that this is for everyone, but there's something in this that I think is quite freeing. And this is why I say it with so much conviction all the time. You don't have to do anything. You're choosing to do everything. Like the fact that someone drives a Lamborghini means that it's possible. You may not want to pay the price tag that it takes to earn the money to buy the Lamborghini, and that's fine. But when you're caught complaining about your life, understand that you're putting yourself there. Yes, it might be harder to do that in certain places. Like maybe if you live out in Western Sydney, a car clean is cheaper than in Bondi. And so if you have a car cleaning business, you might not make enough money because a Lamborghini is the same price in everywhere. But you're choosing to live in Western Sydney. And so I just think it's powerful to understand that because you're just putting the power in your own hands. Like it's okay to live any life. You don't need to make all this money. You don't need to do anything. But what I would hope is that you can have some peace, joy, and fulfillment in your life and you can be happy. And so whatever you need to unlock that, that's great. It's got nothing to do with materialistic things. It's got nothing to do with money. A lot of the time I can find that those things, not the materialistic things, but the money can unlock the things that you want that will help unlock peace, joy, and fulfillment. But you don't need to do any of this stuff. Like you can do whatever you want. And I truly believe that. And that's like, I had nothing 2 years ago and now I have what I have. And so I'm pretty passionate about that topic. And so I think that like when I've got people in my life, I want to instill that belief in them too, to be able to empower them to do whatever they want. In service of others is a key pillar here. Like not being selfish and self-centered. Like in service of others, impact is the greatest drug. It makes you feel more than anything else. In service of others with no malicious intent, do whatever you want. And I think if someone can feel empowered to be able to do that, it's the superpower, dude. Like you give off this energy that everyone wants to be around. Like they feel like they can take over the world. They get inspired to make change in their life for the better. And that's cool. And I like that. What isn't cool is being negative. What isn't cool is complaining about what you're doing. No one likes that. People like bonding and marinating over their problems. I don't. And so a room full of inspiring people is far greater to be in than a room full of negative people that are drained. So let's just create that first environment. Let's just create an inspiring room.
Yeah, it's I remember brought up Timothy Chalamet twice. The bloke is incredibly handsome, but also a big fan of his work. I heard him on Theo Von last year. I recently just returned to re-listen to it because I remember it being a really enjoyable episode. You know those days where you're looking for something to consume and you can't find anything new and you're like, I'll go back to an old gem. And I went back to this conversation he was talking about acting, and he's like, they're big days. They're like 14 to 16 hour days on set. And by the end of it, you're quite, tired and beat up from working. He's like, but it's such, I can't remember his exact words, but he said, it feels like such a privilege to me that this is not something I can be nonchalant about. And immediately my mind went to, be chalant about your life. And chalant ain't even a word, but I think it's an expression worth sharing, that you should be chalant about your life. And I really respect that about you. And the reason that I've given you so much pushback today is because I like to see the depth of those ideas. I think that eye to eye in the way that we approach goals and ambitions, albeit very different, and our different opinions on things, I really respect that you're out there fucking going after your life. And I really want to see you win. I'm excited to continue to see what opportunities come into your world, whether it be whilst you're here in Oz, whilst you're over in the US, or wherever you end up. I'm excited for you, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, I think conviction is something a lot of people lack. Being chalant. I like that. How boring is it? You want to run and someone like, oh, like, what do you do, mate? Like at a run club, and you're like, oh, what do you do? Oh, yeah, I work in this job. It's like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Oh, yeah, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm studying at the moment. Oh, cool. Like, what are you doing after studying? Oh, I might get this job here. Like, I think I'm going to get offered this. And like, have some conviction, man. Like, do something that lights you up.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah, like want it. And if you don't, why are you doing it?
That's one thing I've got to say that pisses me off about blokes, is I truly believe there's this, and I don't know where it comes from. I think it's maybe the lack of being able to express emotions, which, I feel like is changing for men slowly but surely, because they're now able to see men more emotionally express where they're at, because of podcasts and movies and documentaries, etc. But I love when you ask a guy, you say, hey mate, have you got someone in your life? And they're like, mate, I met the best girl and I married her and we're starting a family and God, she lights me up. And I love that. I think that as blokes, we've got to be prouder of the things that are happening in our life. We like to be nonchalant because it seems like we're easygoing, but I think you should be chalant about the people you love, the things you've got going on in your life, the world that you are creating with the way that you step out into it. And I like that about you, man. So thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, dude, and keep on crushing it. I'm here to help wherever I can.
My man. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fun.